Few events have exposed the hypocrisy and idiocy of the left, like the Free Palestine movement. And Ash Sarkar is a prime example. Ash wailed how she and some friends were shouted at in a pub for brandishing Palestinian flags and paraphernalia. And she also whined that her mother was abused for lofting an unspecified Palestinian placard. Now, normally I'd sympathise with her here. Unfortunately, film promptly emerged of Lauren Southern and her friends after they'd been attacked. And Ash Sarkar screamed at them that they deserved to be punched for wearing a Union Jack hat in England. Not only that, but she accosted them in a demented fury of aggression and spite. This is the left in a nutshell. They treat people like dirt. They're full of hate and rage, but they wail with indignation when it happens to them. Now, make no mistake, the pro-Palestine movement is a pivotal moment in the West. It's one of the most dangerous periods in our history. Hundreds of thousands are screaming for genocide against the Jews, not just in Britain, but in America, France, Sweden, Germany, Ireland, all across the West. This crisis makes Oswald Mosley's black shirt pale into insignificance in comparison. And while Mosley faced opposition, this time all the anti-racists have come out to defend the anti-Semites, or to join them. Labour grandees Chris Williamson and Jeremy Corbyn made remarkable TV appearances, refusing to criticise Hamas while spreading hatred and noxious conspiracy theories about Israel. And wider society, the police, and our complicit media have turned a blind eye too. This is what we might term Rotherham syndrome. They're too terrified of being labelled as racists to condemn what they're seeing. So they defend the worst racism ever seen on the streets of Britain. They would scream with rage if the far right were behaving this way. Yet here they are, supportive and complicit. And we saw this hypocrisy when counter-protesters came out to defend the cenotaph. This time, the media didn't hesitate to attack them, and neither did the police. The counter-protesters were immediately and predictably smeared as far right. Now, fair enough. There were ugly and violent scenes there. But while these received blanket coverage and denunciations, the violence of the Free Palestine mob was covered up or defended. More than this, the response of the police was completely different. While the Free Palestine mob were met with peace signs and high fives, the counter-protesters were met with barriers and batons, a disparity that proved Suella Braverman 100% correct. Let's confront the Free Palestine mob with barriers and batons and see how violent they get then. Yet the media continued to flagrantly lie. Channel 4 were brazen, claiming that the pro-Palestine march was entirely peaceful, while the day was marked by far-right violence. They also had a not too subtle dig at Suella Braverman. Yet the reality was different. There were plenty of scuffles involving the police and the Free Palestine mob too. They also aimed fireworks at the police and abused and bullied customers at numerous shops and restaurants. An elderly couple selling poppies were punched and abused. Pro-Palestine marchers were also caught on film screaming for death to all the Jews, and that at least Hitler knew how to treat these people, while a mob of several hundred attacked Tory MP Michael Gove. He was only saved by a significant police presence. And being that this attack came just 2 years after another Tory MP, David Ames, was brutally murdered by a radical left-wing Islamist, that should raise serious alarm bells. But wider society continues to stick its head in the sand. They'll carry on pretending that this problem doesn't exist until it bites them in the ass. and then they'll probably just blame it on the far right. Other political commentators, like the noxious Bushra Sheikh, are given carte blanche to post pro-Hamas sentiments, to bully others, and to gloat about how British society is surrendering to Islam. But the majority lack the guts to call this plague out for what it is. Only one significant figure had the courage and honesty to stand up and confront this, to warn where this was going, and she was promptly sacked. That's a terrifying development, because the response to this problem is worse than the crisis itself. Appeasement does not work. When aggression is met with weakness, as it has been here, then it's emboldened, it's encouraged, and then it gets a lot worse. Look, I believe in free speech and the right to protest. I'm not saying these marches should be completely banned, but this movement needs to be met with loud and universal condemnation, with unequivocal opposition. And these people need to be informed that they cannot take over central London and many other cities virtually daily in the run-up to Christmas. Our economy needs that retail revenue, and it requires the tourist dollars that come in too. So a solution must be found. Now, it's no surprise that one of the worst organs pushing this deranged manifesto is the BBC. They've harboured a brazen anti-Israel bias for years. A few years back, a group of Jewish children on a school bus were assailed by a Muslim mob in Oxford Street. The Muslims gave Nazi salutes and spat on the children. But when sent this news, the BBC simply reported the opposite. They claimed that the Jewish children had shouted slurs about the Muslims, that in effect they were asking for it. This interpretation was not in the original report. It had been entirely fabricated in a BBC newsroom. And these are the people who have the nerve to critique the misinformation spread by others, the audacity to shove BBC Verify down our throats. And they've taken this incipient dishonesty into their coverage of the Gaza war. The BBC still refuse to call Hamas terrorists, and they've repeatedly accepted Hamas propaganda as the unvarnished truth, while pouring scorn on any announcements by the IDF, the Israeli security forces. When a Palestinian rocket landed in the car park of the Al-Alai hospital, the BBC uncritically repeated Hamas propaganda and claimed that the hospital had been hit by an Israeli rocket, killing 500 people. A brazen lie. But worse followed. Israel has long claimed that the headquarters of Hamas are under the Al-Shifa hospital. They surrounded the place, and a Reuters report made clear that the Israelis had included medical teams and Arab speakers in their operation. Yet the BBC flagrantly lied again, claiming that the IDF had targeted medical teams and Arab speakers, a report that provoked attacks on Jews in cities across the globe. The BBC also claimed that Israel had prevented hospitals in Gaza from functioning by blocking fuel supplies. But this was another lie. In reality, Israel had offered fuel to the hospitals to power incubators, but this offer was rejected by the Palestinians. One of the worst culprits at the BBC is Jeremy Bowen, their Middle East correspondent. He's borne a grudge against Israel for decades, perhaps since he was injured and a colleague killed by IDF fire in an operation in Lebanon in the year 2000. In 2008, he put together a documentary, The Birth of Israel. It's full of glaring omissions and half-truths that continually exonerate Palestine while pouring all the blame on Israel. And he's been up to his old tricks again. He's poured scorn on Israel's suggestion that the Al-Shifa hospital has been used as a base. So when the IDF uncovered a large stash of ammunition and Kalashnikovs, he came to the remarkable conclusion that this stash was probably for the hospital security department, a deranged conspiracy theory that the BBC saw fit to air. Bowen also suggested that the demands for a ceasefire would grow without proof of any Hamas headquarters at al-Shifa. Regrettably for him, the IDF have unearthed a large tunnel at the hospital and also found security footage of Hamas fighters dragging terrified hostages through the corridors. So it seems likely that their intelligence is correct. This footage prompted the worst take of all from the left's most reliable, useless idiot. Somehow, Owen Jones looked at that terrifying footage and concluded that the kindly Hamas were just taking the hostages there to give them medical treatment. This is the real crisis we face. It's not the presence of a fifth column of deranged Islamists. It's the vipers within. They're sickening apologists who teem in our media, universities, and political classes. The throngs of useful idiots who are applauding the Trojan horse of radical Islam, who've laid out the red carpet for the fanatics who hope to destroy the West. May future generations damn them, as I damn them now. If you've enjoyed this film, please like and subscribe. And if you're interested in these topics, I've written 2 books which go into them in extensive detail. They're called The Tyranny of the Left, and they're available on the links below. Please do feel free to pick them up and let me know what you think. Thank you.